Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
All right, brother, what you gonna do when the Video Nasty Project goes wild over you? That's right, these 27-inch pythons, they're gonna bring you a movie from south of the border. Tonight, we're bringing you Night of the Bloody Apes. Luchadores and Mexican wrestling and all sorts of crazy half-man, half-ape creatures. It's gonna be awesome. Let's check out the trailer.
An orgy of terror. It's the night of the Bloody Apes. Creatures born of madness, half man, half beast, all horror.
It's the monster!
The night of the Bloody Apes. One man shares their terrible secret. One man challenges nature on the night of the Bloody Apes. Sharing their bloodlust in the name of science, daring divine will with his bizarre creations.
But a horrible half-beast, half-human.
They strike again, and again, and again. The lust of a man in the body of a beast. What can stop them? What can appease them? Half man, half beast, all horror. Nobody sleeps. Beware. The night of the Bloody Apes. They rip, they tear, they claw you to pieces. It's an orgy of terror. Beware, it's the night of the Bloody Apes. Tear, they claw you to pieces. It's an orgy of terror. Beware, it's the night of the Bloody Apes, and the creatures of hell are loose. The night of the Bloody Apes.
And that was Night of the Bloody Apes. There's a Mexican title, but fuck if I can pronounce it because it's Mexican and I'm not. The movie was by René Cardona. He has a long history of Mexican horror movies. He did a lot of Santo flicks. This is basically a remake of Doctor of Doom, which he did like 7 or 8 years before this. The movie starts out, well, it's a Mexican movie. It's a Mexican horror movie. Therefore, it's wrestling. Actually, I'm going to go with the wrestling's actually kind of poor. The actress they got, she's not very convincing. The wrestling is kind of boring and tepid compared to like a Santo flick. It didn't do nothing for me.
It wasn't very good wrestling at all.
It was mostly tossing and tumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it starts out with this luchadora, this all in red, kind of looks like the devil, throwing around another luchadora. They throw down for a little bit, and then the red luchadora throws the green one out of the ring. She takes a bad bump and gets like a bone splinter in her head from hitting the floor. And the red luchadora is like, "Oh no!" Cut to the mad doctor of the piece. He's got a son who is dying of leukemia. He's only got like days left to live. All the doctors in the hospital that the mad doctor works at says, "Nope, man. He's a goner. We can't do anything." The mad scientist says, "Oh, hell no," and goes and takes the much more reasonable route of kidnapping an ape from the zoo and removing his heart and putting it into his son's heart because the strength of the heart will give him power to overcome the leukemia. Unfortunately, it has the side effect of turning the son into a raging rape machine beast man.
Completely unexpected side effect.
Mr. Neanderthal rape machine.
So the Neanderthal, he busts out of the laboratory and runs off into the streets and like does a whole bunch of rapey stuff and a whole bunch of assaulty stuff.
Lots of killings.
Kills some dude. They catch him, bring him back. Oh no, the ape heart is too much for him. Well, we need to get a human heart that will withstand, the needs. So they go and get the girl from that with the bone in her brain and kidnap her from the hospital, take her heart, put it into the guy. That doesn't work. He goes out and rapes and kills a whole bunch more people. He goes and rampages for a little bit more. They capture him and take him to the hospital where they hold him. He busts out, grabs the child, goes up to the roof, and the father comes up. He's like, no, give me the child. Don't do this, my son, my boy. And takes the child, and the cops gun him down. The end.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of the Wolfman, we've got a little bit of Frankenstein, we've got a little bit of King Kong.
Yeah. Where to begin? This movie's so bad. It's like a train wreck.
Let's start with, it's basically two movies kind of mushed together. You have the luchadora, who is all angsting over the doing this to the other wrestler, and you have that storyline. And then you have the mad scientist trying to save his son storyline going here. And the two don't really intersect at all.
Except for the cop. The cop the detective is the interlinking element.
But it's a very poorly executed.
Yeah.
There isn't really, she doesn't do anything. Hell, she disappears halfway through the movie. She doesn't do anything.
Yeah, this reminds me of those really badly edited together chop sake films that Aso Asia used to put out, where they'd take two unrelated movies, often one from Thailand and one from China or something like that, and then put them together. And supposedly, I mean, maybe they got one of the actors to act in, scenes with both, but usually they were just cobbled together to make a new movie.
It's like a movie version of a mashup. Only it sucks.
You could really just drop her out of the storyline and not affect anything at all.
Except for, in the very beginning, having her injure the other wrestler.
Right.
And even that's kind of spurious. The detective I found pathetically predictable. He just wasn't a very engaging character at all. And everything he did was like, I've seen this before 1,000 times. This movie hit all of the tropes for horror movies and movies involving police, including, oddly enough, the Irish dubbed Mexican cop, which is like, wow.
Yeah, he comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, Faith and Begora. Yeah. It's like, what the hell are you doing in a Mexican movie?
Wow.
The dubbing actually really sucks throughout this. I mean,
it's
words cannot
horrible.
describe.
They never decide on how to pronounce Julio. It's Julio,
Yeah.
or Julio, or it's like, no, pick one and just go with it. Even if it's wrong, just go with it.
And who was that zoo commandant early on who was like, you got to go out there. We got to find this ape that's
And he has
disappeared."
like the most mobile lower jaw ever.
Yeah,
It was-
bald, kind of, almost Gestapo-like, guy here. Go out and find this thing immediately.
The problem that I have with the movie is that, okay, I watch a lot of Mexican flicks. The movie is not nearly insane enough for me. It's really kind of dull. It just kind of, a little bit of this. It's basically your creature feature that you would get in a drive-in. It's basically, the Beast of Yucca Flats or something similar to that.
Yeah.
When you watch a Santo movie, it's absolutely fucking bug nuts insane. You've got aliens come from Mars and invade Mexico, and the only way that Santo can beat them is by wrestling them.
Yep. This is a
Santo
really
movie.
watered down version without Santos.
What I would do, if I were writing the script, here's how I would rewrite it and make it much stronger. Take the luchadora and make her the focus of... She is the investigator. She is the Santo role. She takes the charge and investigates what the hell's going on. So you have her wrestle the monster a couple of times.
Oh, that would have been much more entertaining. Especially if she had actually been able to wrestle.
And then you do something like, the mob sees this monster rampaging through the streets and says, aha, we can use that to our advantage. We're going to go kidnap him and then go and, steal jewels or Dracula's treasure or some other, whatever.
Completely insane stuff.
Right.
That also still makes sense.
And then, let's say... the mob realizes, oh, well, this luchadora, she's in our way. We have to take care of her. Okay, well, how are we going to do that? Hey, we'll bonk the opponent on the head. We'll take the man-ape, put him in the a mask so nobody will know that it's him, and send him into the ring to kill her. And so they wrestle there for a while. And then you yank off the mask, and, oh my god, it's an ape man! Ah! And the crowd freaks out, they run away, and they wrestle a little bit more. That's what I mean about this movie not being nearly batshit insane enough for me.
The music was interesting. I enjoyed the music for the most part, but it really, really reminded me of movies from the 1950s where, the horror movies, they all had music that was just like doom, 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 over the top, like very dramatic and mood intensifying. And this music very much was like that. But sometimes I found it a little inappropriate.
A lot of that, I think, is a byproduct of... So they went and shot the movie in 68, I think it was. Then it was released in America, and the American distributor said, man, we need to put some tits in here, and we need to put some gore in here. And so they spliced in violence. Because if you notice, all the violence is like super close up,
Yep.
and you don't really get you don't get the man-ape doing the violence. It's all like hands, big hairy hands, and you get a close up on his eyes, stuff like that. So... you would get music playing during one of the attacks, and then it would cut like that. I mean, no transition, I'll just end.
They obviously just plain didn't care for any continuity. There's, Igor has this big scar on his cheek. Later, when they show the ape man holding his decapitated head, no scar, even though it's a really big, obvious scar for the whole movie.
Yeah, when they're wrestling the woman, the grass gets moved aside, and you can clearly see the studio floor.
Yeah.
Boy, did that suck.
The woman, and back to that particular woman who gets raped, her dress gets ripped off of her, her hair gets all disheveled.
Some of her
everywhere.
hair gets torn off.
And some of her hair gets
in
torn
the
off.
grass.
And then later when she goes and runs for help, she's in her dress again, and it's perfectly intact, and her hair's back the way it normally was, complete with the bow she was wearing.
But that continuity, or that can be explained away because the rape scene was inserted by the Americans. If you followed the flow from her just running away to the store, this dress is appropriately ripped. So that's just an artifact of this editing.
But one thing I did notice is that I believe maybe all of the sets were in the same place and that they just redressed everything.
Yes.
The hospital, and then the lab, and then the interior of the doctor's house. I think we're all the same studio, and then they just redressed everything.
That was the problem with this movie had, that all the sets looked like they were on a soap opera, a Mexican soap opera.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
See, that's the vibe I got from this thing. It was like a typical soap opera, like Destinos or something like that, which I've seen a bunch of episodes of. It's like I'm expecting Jaime Jarrín to come in any second.
So what did we think about the gore?
Well, the real operations didn't really bother me much because I mean I've seen operations, so I knew it wasn't actually part of the movie. And but as far as like the killings and stuff, mild. I mean, extremely mild.
I thought the operations were a little much, but only by a small fraction. But all the killing type gore was like weak.
The open heart surgery stock footage that they use is probably what landed this movie on the nasty list.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mind you, it's not really much more than anything that you would see on like cable, like Annie or a Lifetime documentary.
As far as the killings go, I mean, the one that made me laugh almost out loud, of course, is the eye.
But honestly, the gore throughout this movie is really, really poorly executed. It's all close up and shaky and not very well done.
Notice that the cinematography for this was not very inspired at all. There were many points where it would have been much improved by changing camera angles or doing pans or
Renee, he is really workman in his films. He is very much set the camera down, set the lens wide, light it really flat, and have the action take place in front of it. It's not really inspired. It's really kind of dull directing.
Well, I mean, that definitely lends weight to the whole, this feels like a soap opera.
It really does.
Kind of thing, like he directed for TV or something, and this is the best he could do.
He did something like 140, 150 movies, according to the IMDb.
I hope they weren't all like this.
I need to go see. I haven't seen it since like the 70s. He did Alive, that the Mexican soccer team gets lost in the Himalayas. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen the remake. I haven't seen his version of it.
I've never seen the remake.
Yeah, it was what that was like late 70s, I think it was.
The remake was particularly well done. But having not seen the original, I can't really comment on it.
Just so there's no ape man in there.
No ape man.
Damn it!
It's fun to watch simply to point out the problems.
I mean, prime example, the first kill where he goes out and he enters that woman's room while she's asleep or whatever. Oh, no, she's
in the shower.
No, she's in the shower. He picks her up, puts her on the bed. She wakes up. He starts trying to rape her, and then he starts killing her. And then the other people in this apartment are like, what the hell's going on there? And they're just standing outside the door listening to the screaming. Is she all right? Like, what the fuck? And then they're like, oh, go get the landlord, get the key. Like, fuck the key. Knock the damn door down, you idiot.
No, you don't want to touch the door because that would shake the whole set, and all of a sudden we're on a Doctor Who episode.
Well, yeah. It would be a different kind of movie.
There were moments where you could tell that the set was going to fall apart if you leaned on the wall.
Oh, well, like that door, like the window frame.
Oh,
I mean,
right after the ape man busts through the ropes that are just draped over him.
Yeah, he goes over to the window that he previously escaped out of and starts smashing the boards. But yeah, it's really just kind of plywood propped up against the previously smashed windows.
And then a bendable window frame. It was like rubber
Not
or something.
really.
Like, God dang it.
Or, for example, the clock that has its hands that are brutally cut out and glued to the face.
Yeah.
That's how low budget this is. Wow. This is zero budget, man.
It's like they couldn't get a real actual clock.
Well, look at the Beastman's makeup. You said it was basically just take a whole bunch of pudding and layer it on his face. It's fucking atrocious.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like clay or something.
Yeah.
It's like they just went. A latex factory exploded in his face.
Or they went to a costume shop and got like a gorilla mask and just cut everything away except the head. And,
Put the eyes. Had his eyes looking out of this terrible rubber mask.
Well, you wind up with something like the later Planet of the Apes movies, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, where they went and bought a whole bunch of Don Post masks and put those on the extras and put the extras behind the leads. That looked as much more convincing than Mudman.
Yeah,
Oh,
those
yeah.
Don Postmaster pretty good.
So, to completely not slag on the movie, there is one thing that I did like about it. So, the mad scientist, he is not a Frankenstein. He is not a science for soulless science sake. He was actually more desperate and had pure motivation, even if the execution was absolutely terrible. He wanted to save his son, so it came across, hey, I'm kind of sympathetic. That I kind of dug.
Well, also the actor playing him was actually one of the better actors in the film. He emoted. He had very believable emotional reactions, like when the other doctors announced that his son couldn't be cured. He looked genuinely traumatized and was like, "Oh fuck, what the hell am I gonna do?" And then later, when the heart transplant works and his son's heart is beating and he's recovering and he's like, "It's working, it's working." You know, he genuinely feels a lot more believable than some of the other characters.
I would have been interested to see the lieutenant not diss on his girlfriend, the luchadora.
It was the 60s. That's kind of how the things rolled.
I know.
The Mexicans weren't... Hell, the 60s were not a very progressive time.
It's unfortunate. Really sad.
It's just, seeing them actually go out and have a good time while shit blows apart, then they go and, go on a date. And then somebody comes to say the restaurant, and says, "Oh, there you are! I've been looking all over town for you. What the hell are you doing? There's this blah 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 blah." And he says, "What again?" And Rush says, "Sorry, baby. I hope you had a good time." She says, "No, it's okay. Okay, we have a great time. Now you go out and get this thing."
No.
Or she jumps in. They kind of Batman and Robin it, kind of.
Or they're having dinner and the ape man busts through the plate glass window.
I was about to suggest that.
And starts busting the place up and she has to wrestle him right there
in the restaurant. Yeah. Like body slams him on the table.
Yeah.
The one thing that I was shocked that the movie didn't have. Usually with a Santo movie, you'll get 3 wrestling matches. One at the beginning, one at the very end, and one kind of in the middle that's actually germane to the plot. And then somewhere in between all that, you will get a nightclub scene with some sort of mariachi band playing. And it'll take 5 minutes out of the movie and do this musical number.
Of course.
That's a pretty widespread trope. I'm shocked that they didn't do that here.
Maybe they didn't have the money for a mariachi band.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably
Maybe they didn't
true.
want that kind of peasant music that you get with the tuba and the stuff and the dun dun bum 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 bum.
They also didn't have a car chase scene, which is another thing that I've noticed in a fair number of Mexican movies. They love their car chases, even more than we Americans do.
With a little bit more structure, I think the movie could have been... Well, it would have never been a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I think with a little more structure, it could have been a lot more entertaining and a lot more Santo-like, which are entertaining as fuck.
Now, I did notice one thing. I mean, maybe this speaks to the Americans going and reshooting stuff, but when the doctor is in his office at the beginning, near the beginning of the movie, he has this one book that says on it, yearbook, and I was expecting it to say, Biblio Años.
One of the things they did do, now I don't know if they would have been able to pull that out of there, but when they Americanized the movie, they either street signs that were in Mexican, they cut those out. Posters and billboards, if it was in Mexican, they cut those out. So they did a lot of localization. That might have been one of those.
So they basically de-Mexicanized it.
A lot, yeah.
Wow.
So if putting the heart of a gorilla into the son turns him into an ape man, wouldn't taking the heart of the female wrestler turn him into a woman?
Basically a transgender ape woman, maybe.
And a wrestler.
You would think that would be the case.
The thing is, going with the transgender ape man, that gets back to the batshit insanity that I would have loved to have seen.
Yeah, that would have been much more entertaining.
Especially if the son had some wrestling moves to go with it.
Yeah. That would have been... Yeah.
It's of course, you give him the heart of a wrestler, he turns into a wrestler.
Now, you know what would have been even more batshit is if the son had turned into that woman wrestler, but as a Neanderthal. and then goes after
Yeah.
the first woman, the blonde.
that
You know,
would
when they go at
revenge.
it. Yeah,
That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
but
they go
didn't
at
do-
it, and it's a complete, dichotomy thing of the good one going against the one that did her in. That would be the revenge, getting into a healthy, body that's got all this muscle and stuff, and kind of ape-like, and you bitch, I get you now.
Meanwhile, the mob's off stealing the treasure of Dracula.
Wouldn't that be cool? I can say that for the most part, it was rather entertaining in that way that those type of films are. And some of the, gratuitous nudity and some of the wrestling, that kept my attention.
Yeah, I suppose at a surface level, it's a fun enough, enjoyable, disposable flick. Watch it, move on, you're done.
Yeah.
So, we're done. So, was Night of the Bloody Apes bloody and disgusting and nasty?
Yeah. Yeah, it was full of murder and surgery.
But was it list-worthy, though?
I'm going to say yes. Because of the subject matter, a lot of rape and stuff, and a lot of, open heart surgery, not fake.
Beyond the rape, the gore and the violence was really poorly executed, so I'm going to give it a pass. I'm going to acquit it.
All right, I'm going to just go against the grain for once and say on the list.
That's fine. All right, there we go. On the list or acquitted, depending on how you look at it. Did you like Night of the Bloody Apes?
Meh.
I enjoyed it only because it was so bad. If it had been a mediocre film, I would have been bored to tears.
I am going to go with reluctantly, no, I did not like it. With the caveat, because I watch a lot of Santo movies. I've seen a lot of Mexican horror. I'm really well versed in the genre. This was a pretty poor example. It wasn't necessarily a bad movie, but if I want to get a Mexican wrestling horror show on, there's much more better on my shelf that I can grab. So I'm going to go no. But if you're an entry level, I say it's not bad. Get some friends, have a couple of beers, order some pizza, then it'll be kind of fun. And there we go. That was Night of the Bloody Apes. Half man, half beast, all shit. Be sure to check back in next week when we take a look at Night of the Demons. It's Bigfoot. It's gonna be... I have no idea. In the meantime, please drop us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us if you've seen Night of the Bloody Apes, if you've seen Night of the Beast. The email address is thevideonastyproject@gmail.com. And, well, we'll catch you next week. Stay evil.